Hi everyone, welcome to Stay in Your Lane with Triple T Transport. I'm your host John Maley. Today we got Joe Lombardo again. Hey Joe, how we doing?
Good, John. Yourself?
Good. Today's subject matter I think is one everybody would love to have the crystal ball on. If so, we could invest accordingly on future spec. But does anyone really understand how diesel prices are figured? And do they vary from gasoline from that perspective in any way? I am not. I'm not all knowing in this area. I believe the high fuel prices are due to refining capacity everywhere, and I think it's a global issue from what I'm being told and what I've learned and read. But I'd love to hear what you've learned about it.
I think the first thing to remember is that diesel historically has always been more expensive. Well, probably in the last 20 years, it's been more expensive than gasoline. Sometimes 70 cents, 50 cents a gallon more. There's probably three main reasons why that is. First reason is there's more taxes on diesel from the federal government. 18 cents on gasoline, 24 cents on diesel. So you got 6 cents right there. There is more global demand for diesel. You look in Europe, most of the cars in Europe, a good percentage of them run on diesel. Where in the US, it's pretty minor. So you've got a global demand, not just Europe, Asia, India, South America, big demand for diesel. The third item that comes in is that it costs more to produce diesel. If you remember, John, back in '08, 2010, they went from low sulfur diesel to ultra low sulfur distillates.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a more expensive process. It costs more to process diesel. So you add all that together, plus you mentioned refining capacity. Just some numbers that I was looking at earlier today. In the 1980s, there were over 250 refineries in the country. Now there's 124 total. In 2016, there was 139 refineries. So you're 15 less from only 5 years ago. The Northeast is in a very tenuous situation. There's only 7 active refineries, where at one time there was over 20. So you've got less refining capacity. And again, refineries, there's been merger and acquisitions. There have been environmental issues with refineries. It's tough to get a permit to operate a new refinery. Plus, refineries are probably the most expensive asset that an oil company has. And if it's not running at 95, 98%, that's an underutilized asset. And so they're very quick to turn it off if they don't have the demand for their product. So, we look at gasoline and diesel, that's probably the biggest reasons why the prices are so different.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of information, Joe.
That's why I'm a consultant.
That's why you get the big bucks. Um, I know that the cost to refine diesel is much higher than to refine gasoline.
Yes, absolutely.
If I just go back historically, fuel surcharge came into play in the later 90s, early 2000. Most shippers.
Came in a lot earlier than that.
When did it come in?
God, I remember I was working in New York for a Sterling drug company. I remember talking about fuel surcharges then. That was in the late 70s, 80s, after the first Arab boycott, the Arab oil boycott.
Okay. See, I was
They
in.
go back a lot longer than 2000.
No, but I think what we've had is a consistent fuel surcharge in place. I think most everyone's fuel surcharge scale starts at $1.20 or $1.25, $1.19, $9, whatever. But in the mid '90s, diesel fuel was still and a lot of the times you would pass the truck stops and you'd see the sign up with what diesel was running there, but it was in the 90 cent range. It was 99 to $1.29, I think, for the longest time that I remember.
Okay.
So, you going back to the 70s and the boycotts and stuff, but I think the fuel surcharge in our industry, most everyone's fuel surcharge table starts at the $1.20 to $1.25 point. So we didn't have. I got into this business 28 years ago at Triple T. We didn't have a fuel surcharge in play when I started the industry. So we weren't billing it. We didn't have it in play. And there were many shippers in the late 90s and into 2000 that were still trying to avoid fuel surcharge.
Right.
Not paying it, So we would still add it in and provide them an all-in rate, right? We would provide them a number that was fully encompassing. But we had shippers back then even telling us we don't pay fuel surcharge. Right.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people don't understand there's different types of crude oil.
Right.
Okay. And different crude works well in different refineries too. So compounding all of the data and the numbers you shared, I think that we export crude that doesn't do well in our refineries, that does better in other countries' refineries, and they export to us what works well in our refineries also.
Right. Yeah, I mean, in a barrel of crude oil, which is 42 gallons, there's probably a dozen different products that are made from that 42 gallons. And it's all not gasoline, it's all not diesel, it's various products.
Right. What is it? What's the percentage? How many gallons of diesel do they refine down out of the 42?
Well, out of that 42, the gasoline is the highest at 19 gallons. Now, I'm going to round these up and down. Diesel's at about 12 gallons. Jet fuel's about 2.5. What they call heavy fuel, which is what container ships and maritime work, that's what they run on. You've heard the term bunker fuel. That's the real heavy, thick fuel. That's about 2.25 gallons. Asphalt is a petroleum-based product. That's about 1.33 gallons. And you've got hydrocarbons, which are like propane, butane, those types of gases. And then you got all other, which is about 4.5 gallons, which is petroleum feedstocks, what goes into plastics and all that, other distillates.
Tires, and then there's
anything that's petroleum based, plastics, tires.
So for our listeners to understand, I believe what we're seeing is a global volume from a refining process. I think that what I read the other day was the petroleum companies used to bonus and pay plans were structured around drilling new wells.
Mm-hmm.
And that's no longer the case. The petroleum companies' executives are different generation from what they used to be. They're younger and then come up through, and their motivation is profit and profitability more so than drilling. So they're not incentivizing drilling new wells and providing more product. They're incentivizing profit and loss sheet. Okay, which I think is a monumental shift in what's going on, and probably why there's less refineries than there have been in the past. I mean, from what you said, in 20 years we won't be refining much fuel.
Well, there's probably going to be fewer and bigger refineries out there. And again, where's most of the refining done today? Probably Louisiana and Texas.
Correct. But doesn't that leave us in more of a liability on an overall perspective for a country?
Absolutely. I mean, look at the hurricane issue. Every time there's a hurricane that goes through South Texas to Louisiana, usually the oil industry gets shut down for a period of time.
Yeah.
I mean, look what happened to Texas in the winter when they had that freeze that went through Texas. A lot of refineries weren't able to operate. Some of those refineries still haven't come back. So
were they living on wind energy from wind and everything froze?
yeah. Wind will get us out of this. Wind and solar. But putting refining just in the Southwest is definitely a risk there. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think from the number of refineries there were, they may be much more efficient now. then I would assume that they're more efficient than they ever have been before to be profitable. But the lack of drilling, the amount of diesel always used to be lower than gasoline, and in the past 20 years, it's more expensive than gasoline.
Yeah.
But I think you get maybe more energy out of it than you do. Diesel's, more efficient, or you get more mileage out of it, more energy out of a gallon than you do a gallon of gas. And as far as heavy equipment.
Yeah.
So, yeah, definitely. I believe it's more a global issue than just here in the United States.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I don't. From everyone I've spoken to and everything I've read, other countries are struggling from a diesel perspective also. It's not just here.
Oh, absolutely. Europe, definitely. Especially with Russia now, they're not taking oil from Russia or the refined products from Russia. So yeah, they're definitely hurting. And just as a point of reference, I didn't see the numbers for this week, but last week diesel, the national on-highway average, it was 5.70. Gasoline was 5. So, I mean, there's your 70 cents a gallon difference right there.
That's an accurate number, I think, today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who would have thought it would be 5.70 for a national average?
Yeah.
The question is, where's it going to go from here?
Coming into the summer driving season, they're going to be, how much are they going to be changing over to make more gasoline? I mean, I don't know. I don't see it. I don't see it getting better through the summer. I could see $5.50, $6 gasoline, and through the summer.
Yeah, I don't think that either gasoline or diesel, but I don't think either of them come down at the rate they increase.
No.
I think they increase almost real time.
Yeah.
If the barrel price tomorrow goes up, the gas goes up tomorrow.
Yeah.
But I think conversely, on the downside, I don't think they come down at the same rate.
Right. And again, to a point on one of your earlier podcasts, I think you had Mr. North on from the insurance
Allianz, yeah.
And he basically said that fuel prices, gasoline and diesel, said they're very sticky. I mean, they go up and they stick, and when they come down, they don't go down as quick. So yeah, he said he used the word sticky.
Yes, I remember that, and it makes sense because I don't ever remember gasoline or diesel dropping 50 cents a day.
No.
It's not done it in my
Again,
lifetime.
it takes a while for that fuel to go through the petroleum supply chain too. So they got all different costs, crude and.
But when the barrel goes up that day, it goes up.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily know that it has to go through the pipeline. I think it went through on the front side. But Joe, again, thank you. Appreciate the time and the knowledge and your wisdom and your perspective. Invaluable.
All right. Well, I appreciate it, John. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too.